Ladies and gentlemen, after such a long time in between episodes, if I remember correctly, the last episode we did was a little bit before I ended up moving from Tennessee over to Arizona. I know we did one recently. I know that for sure, but it was definitely before we moved. And if not, then well, I'm oblivious to my own podcast lineage or something like that. Just the episodes that I've been getting out to the public. And before anything else, of course, definitely big shout out to Gamer Subs. I'm not officially sponsored or anything, but I just got my new flavor for emotional damage, which is strawberry peach, and that's what I'm being fueled by for tonight's session. So good shit. And anybody who hasn't ever invested into the product, I would definitely recommend it because it's really healthy. It's really good stuff, and it keeps you energized. It keeps you focused. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, after they have just conquered a live stream, signing some merch, getting that ready to go for all of their listeners. Currently, they're 3,316 possible monthly listeners. So among those, whoever decides to grab merch, they just did a live stream and then they hopped right over to here. So I do appreciate all of the boys taking time out of their afternoon after also conquering a music video, their first music video yesterday, which is why they're all there in the first place. And the only missing piece of the puzzle being their new drummer or their drummer. I'm not sure about new, but drummer in general. Just the whole band is there. And it's an honor to be hosting you guys on the Anatomy Crosscast now. If anything, that's something fresh for this episode. It's no longer the Anatomy Podcast because I'm tired of competing with an actual, I think, like lobotomy podcast called the Anatomy Podcast. And I mean, I can't exactly beat a podcast that goes in depth, most likely, on certain surgeries or how certain things are supposed to go. Maybe like horror stories in the hospital. Who fucking knows? But all I know is I cannot compete with the actual Anatomy Podcast, probably from the perspective of a doctor. So we changed it to the Anatomy Crosscast. Everybody, welcome to the Anatomy Crosscast. And it's going to be super easy to find now. Just type in Crosscast exactly how you think it would be spelt, and you will be able to find this podcast. But as you guys know, when it comes to the Anatomy Crosscast and its formula, we have the first section, which is going to be for people. So we're going to be learning the stories of the people that are available today in session. We're going to be digging as much as we can and as much as they are comfortable with into their past, into their history, into their legacy as musicians. And then with their recent album, Endless Cycle of Suffering, releasing in the second half, we figure out the questions like, why is your band called The Pretext to Human Suffering? Or why the hell are you kind of on a label but aren't on a label? And then we will be taking at least a little bit of time, and we will be trying to lyrically dissect what isn't already dissected with this album, with the little excerpt of passage on their Instagram already, kind of giving an overlapping narrative and just kind of a summary of what's going on lyrically with this record. But for starters, gentlemen, how you doing?
Good, man. Fantastic.
Great.
Good. I mean, I know you in the back from some other projects in the past, including like Sold Soul, and now you're in Possession with Intent, which is insane. Really awesome to have you on and to know that you're bouncing around so many heavy projects, dude. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate to hear that. But yeah, fuck yeah.
Absolutely, man. Got to recognize legacy, got to recognize legends in history here today. After all, with Endless Cycle of Suffering being as solid as a record as it is, the front to back session over on Sean Cross. Well, I'm glad we are finally here to be telling these guys' stories as musicians, how they came together and said, fuck it, we're just going to write an album. We're going to write this whole ass band. We're going to get it together and we're just going to write some heavy fucking music that is just absolutely relentless and provides good for marketing and Endless Cycle of Suffering, oddly speaking, unless if you're into metal and then you're like, yes, this is disgusting, but it's so fucking good. It's like, $5, it's a good old value pack meal at your local fast food restaurant or something. Just like, yes, here's my cravings box, baby. Like, that type of So for starters, whoever really wants to start first, as I just said, basically, this is your time to tell your story as a musician. And though I cannot be there in person to film a whole ass documentary, one day, hopefully that will be the case. Until further notice, you know, it's just in between the screen. But this is your time to tell your story. This is your time to provide all stories, insight, behind the scenes knowledge, to your audience, to your fans about what you feel is relevant to you as a musician. Anybody may start, because I know good old vocalist, I think on stream I remember you saying you had like laryngitis, so maybe your voice is hurting. Yeah, so maybe your voice is hurting a little bit, you know, maybe he can go last, whatever order you guys want to do. This is your time. Take your time and just tell your story. Whoever may can start.
I'll move forward so you can actually my breaking up voice, but yeah, I started the project like I think 2020 as a solo project, and I found a bassist from Slovakia,
Okay.
and then I joined The Flesh and Gutted that had him and him in it, and then they had sent me some tracks that they had written, like their own shit, and it was kind of along the same vibe and lines as like what I was writing. So I was like, I already have a project started. Do y'all want to just like join up and get this going? And so they joined with me. Spencer, I lived in Vancouver, Canada for like 15 years, and I played in bands with him. And so like when we lost our original bassist, he's the first guy I messaged. He was down as fuck like right away. And the drummer we picked up is a young, very talented like kid who's not in any other bands. I saw off a YouTube video like covering Archspire. I was like, "Hey man, are you in a band? Are you looking for a band?" And he was, and like now he's part of the project, and we're finally like a full functioning band. So it's really exciting for us right now. Like we're together here in El Paso right now to just like you already said, we filmed our music video, and we're gonna start doing pre-production on like a shitload of new music. Like within the next 3 days, we already have like an album worth of stuff to work out. So that's about I think on my end.
Yeah, these are hype times, man. And you guys are just like keeping it going. You're keeping it moving. And it's momentum, man. That's really what helps a band sustain itself is momentum. So when you're able to finally unite, it's almost like, you know, the allies or the Axis powers, if we're talking about war.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like everybody's coming together.
we get so much more work done in person than like files back and forth, which is how we normally work. But like
what a pain, man.
We're in the same room, we like finalize a song within like hours as opposed to like days, you know what I'm saying? So like it's so much better being in person for us, like for the writing process.
Right.
Yeah.
Naturally, man. Well, let's see. If anything, I forgot to do this as well. If everybody can introduce themselves, like what they do for the band and their name.
Yeah, sure. My name is Chris. I'm the vocalist. I also write some music, and I was part of this just go ahead.
I'm Beto. I play guitar and write music for this project. Well, everyone does.
Yeah.
Wes, I play guitar as well.
He also writes.
Everyone writes.
Yeah.
Spencer, I play bass, and I think I'm gonna be doing some backup vocals on the new album, stuff like that. So
right. So I think I'm going to be writing for the new album. I'm not sure yet, though.
We're gonna continue down the same path, but not really like pigeonholing ourselves subgenre wise.
Yeah,
we have songs that are like straight up tech death, and songs that are like straight up caveman savagery, and like we don't want to pigeon ourselves or like I said, pigeonhole ourselves like genre wise. So we're just gonna keep doing our own thing. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Absolutely. And that's the thing too, is like, as far as I'm concerned these days, when it comes to heavy music, it's 2023 now. Like there are a lot of major subgenres that are getting their spotlight. And then you have what is cemented into the history, the Hall of Fame per se of subgenres with like slam or tech death and you know, all these just various thematic based subgenres of music now. It's crazy, like freaking pirate metal or like kawaii core. Shout out to the homies in Lucretia over in California, because it's getting more and more specific over time. And I mean, these days you can even kind of tried to isolate bands like Brand of Sacrifice to being like berserker themed deathcore with electronic elements or something, but then you're like, duh, that just like break it down, that's Brand of Sacrifice, dude, that's just how they sound, man. And I'm like, okay, cool, there you go, because that's like per brand, per marketing. So it's really good that that more and more bands over time, like, of course, it's like really for the Facebook page, right? You have like the FFO, for fans of, and then these days it could be 16 different bands that are pretty well established.
For us, it's kind of hard to put up for fans of, I think. I don't know, because like where we're coming from is like traditional death metal bands like Origin and like Vital Remains, but also like newer shit. So I don't even really know. We're just kind of like deciding to just kind of label ourselves as modern death metal band. It's really hard to like stick a genre tag on what we're doing. I mean, we feel so that's kind of where we're at. It's like we have elements of slam and like modern deathcore and like modern death metal. Like, a bunch of shit going on. So
we just listen to a whole bunch of music that we really don't like to stick to a label per se, but we just want to be brutal and sick and just like
it's really all about like the songs when we're writing music. It's like the movement of music is like how we kind of break it down, and like not everything is really organic when we write music, and nothing is really like forced. Like we need to have this section in this song.
It's gonna be sick.
It's gonna be sick.
We brought it down. Now we're gonna build it back up. Now we're gonna drop it off and like have a crescendo and shit like that. So, like,
and also, our ADHD helps a lot.
Definitely.
It's all unhinged ADHD fuckery, man.
Like you can definitely hear that, man. But as far as I'm concerned, that's a damn good thing, because ADHD, it affects like the modern age, the modern times so significantly that like a lot of people are like recognizing it as a plague or an epidemic or whatever. It's just like, well, you have ADHD, like what? Jack of all trades, what? It's like, no. It's just like you're not able to really devote to one thing in life because there's so much stuff going on. There's so much stimulation in the world that it's hard to try to isolate to one thing, because once you do, like, you might as well just isolate to a broader spectrum of whatever you want to focus on kind of relates to. For example, music, and just being a musician these days is a lot more complicated than what it used to be. Like back in the day, of course, bands would get fucked over by management all the time, or metal bands would be making like actually crumbs, like, you know, we will crumble the crumb. Nowadays, it's like, you know, you get a good gig, you become a decently relevant band, you write enough music to satisfy most people, question mark, in the industry, and then you might get a gig, you might get an offer with the record label, but then you can't just be a band these days. No.
No, you gotta wear many hats, like being in a band, for sure.
It's nowadays it's more like
you gotta be able to like edit videos and like be a social media manager and like come up with like content ideas and shit.
And record your own music.
Recording shit, it's like produce, like you gotta be able to do it all.
And you gotta know how to market your own merchandise.
Jack of all trades, like you said, but basically just you gotta be more like an entertainer with like solid jams to back you up.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
The music industry has changed so much over the years.
It's very oversaturated too, man. Like there's a lot of music out. It's hard to like get a footing being a newer band just because it is so oversaturated. It's hard to like get eyes or ears on your project or whatever.
Yeah. And then like, as I've recalled in like multiple episodes before, because this is the truth, it's there. It's around us all the time. Like 1 in 4 people around the whole world, man, are musicians, are creators. They have some type of creative medium. So therefore, you think about, you know, the thousands of bands maybe that you happen to be following or that you've heard one song by. There's like 15 bands trying to do the same exact thing. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But among other things, of course, you know, as we're like getting a little bit more comfortable and warmed up and settled in a little bit, absolutely, I want to like definitely tell you guys a story a lot more than just like, yeah, we're in a band, we don't really isolate to one genre, but we're doing what we want. We're having fun. We're inspired by new and old stuff, recognizing history, acknowledging the next legacy, that type of thing. But if anything, I definitely want to dig a little bit more and like,
Yeah, go for it, man.
yeah. So if anything, Chris, that you said your name was Chris?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you
Yes.
want to, you may start off, sir. Go ahead and like kind of tell us how you ended up getting into vocals and like if you had any other things you were doing when you were a lot younger. I know you mentioned that's what was a solo project and what ended up becoming a pretext of human suffering, but maybe there were band projects beforehand that you were doing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe one of them happened to be a pop punk band or a hardcore band, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
let's learn as much about you as possible that you wouldn't be otherwise providing the public domain, because
Sure.
that's the spice of the Anatomy Crosscast. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I got you. I started playing music at a really young age. My dad played guitar, and I had a guitar when I was like 6 years old. And I didn't really start seriously playing until I was about 12, like learning shit like Nirvana and like grunge era stuff. And then like as I grew up into my teens, I got into like new metal and like bands like Korn, like when their first album was coming out and like Slipknot type shit. And then it just kind of progressed as time went on into like heavier music for me. My first like legit band I was in, I think, was when I was like 14, and it was like a new metal, I guess, sounding band. Uh, I moved to Canada when I was like 20 years old, and then I joined a metalcore band called Civil Ruin. I was in for a while. Um, we got a guitarist that was I became really good friends with, and then we left that band and started the band Abriosis from Vancouver, which is like a very progressive technical death metal band. I was just on like as far as like I was just their singer, and I'm only on their first recording. After that, like we did a run across Canada, and then like I got kicked out of that band actually, and then I got asked to join. I got picked up immediately by a different band from Vancouver called Galgamex, which is also like a very fast like technical death metal band from like 2010. And then I started a death grind band called Ogrim, and I also joined another band on vocals called Zuckus, which was like a Star Wars 3 themed porno grind band. And also
Didn't know about that.
also started another band I was playing guitar, like two other bands I was playing guitar in. One was called Cadaveric Lividity, which is what Spencer was from, and also another band called YOLO Swag Acting, which was pretty much what Feeling Flesh is, but from like 2010, where we were playing like slam mixed with like 3 6 Mafia and shit like way before. And that's pretty much my musical history. I moved back to the States in 2019, and I didn't do music or no, I moved back to the States in 2017, and I didn't do music for like 2 years, and then I joined D Flesh and Gutted on vocals, and then met these guys, and I started like my own thing and released like a single before I met these guys, and then joined that band. Sorry, I might be getting the timeline mixed up. And then I got them to join up with Pretext, and that's kind of pretty much where we're at. D Flesh and Gutted is now defunct, but I know like these guys are also in a bunch of other projects, but that's pretty much like my musical history. Like, pretty much.
Dude, awesome. And I do have to like ask the question, of course, like as someone who's always been in the States, what ended up like having you go from the States to Canada and then from Canada to the States? Like, obviously there's a story there.
Yeah, there is for sure, huh?
So basically, we met each other through Defleshed and Gutted. Wes was being the bassist for the time being, and then he was a vocalist. And this is an international project. They're from the States, from Canada, and I'm from Mexico. And during 2020, when the pandemic was going on, I couldn't come to the United States for like almost 2 years, man. And like I had some songs written down, and I just couldn't get a hold of anyone in my hometown, which is Juarez, border town with El Paso.
Okay.
And the guys who were able to play the stuff that I wrote were already busy in other projects, and it's just a very limited pool of musicians to choose from, right? And then I asked some, like the group chat for Deflection Guided, like, hey, can someone program drums for these songs? I would like to get some sick shit going on. And then Chris reached out to me and be like, I have this project called A Pretext to Human Suffering. I don't know if you're interested. We share the same influences. We like the same bands, you know. And he sent me a demo, which was Rotting Sanctum. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, this shit lives. Let's do this shit. And then we got it going for a couple of months. And then we eventually asked Wes if he wanted to join us. And like, fuck yeah, I'm down. Let's do this shit. Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's pretty much it.
Sick. Yeah. And I mean, that's definitely a segue into your story and stuff like that. So I mean, as we're kind of like speed running through this, because I know you guys have like a live stream to attend to after this, and you know, other matters to attend to, because you guys are a whole ass group.
Yeah, I can give you that story really quick. When I was 19, I met a girl from Vancouver in Ontario, because I was on the border town of New York and like Ontario, and I used to go there because I was underage to drink in the United States. Me and my friends would go there to party. I met this girl. She was from Vancouver. She lived with me in Rochester for a while, which is where I'm from, and she wanted to move back, so I went back with her. We broke up very shortly after. I fell in love with the city of Vancouver. And then I left Vancouver in the end because I ended up getting addicted to fentanyl and moved back home.
Well, I mean, that's if not a reason. If there's no other reason, it's usually for a woman, for a lady. Like,
yeah, but I had to get out of there because I became like heavily addicted to opiates, and I needed a change of scenery.
oh shit. Okay. Well, I do appreciate you like being willing to share that that side of the story.
Yeah, man. I'm pretty open about that.
Good, good. And I hope, I can only hope that you're doing better now, and that you know you're just navigating life.
Yeah, no, I've got a family and a house and shit. I'm good. I was
Fuck yeah.
bad before I left, but yeah, I'm in a good place. I got this project and shit. Like, yeah, I'm doing very good.
Fantastic.
Besides my voice, which says otherwise, but
well, if anything, to quickly kind of like wrap up your chunk of the story, Chris, it's a little bit more pressure, right? Go ahead and provide me 5 bands, albums, or even like major people in your life that have like really influenced you throughout all these projects over time that you've done, including A Pretext to Human Suffering. Like, what are 5 different characters, I would say, that have like really helped you fuel your creative passion and have just kept you moving?
I can tell you, I can easily list like 5 bands that have done that for me, which would be like Origin, Cephalic Carnage, Psyopus, Converge, and then I would say Carnivorous Veracity are like the main 5 bands that like I really draw heavy influences from when I'm writing music, which are like a lot of different genres there, but I like, yeah, those are like my main kind of influences when it comes to writing shit.
Fantastic. Cool. And thank you, Chris, for providing us a little bit of lore and, you know, your background as a musician, kind of reminding us of the history that and the footprints, the trail, the journey that you've like put into the floor so far, put into the ground as you continue moving forward with A Pretext to Human Suffering. And as we continue forward in this session, whilst wasting as little time as possible with these guys, because they got a lot of shit to do. Let's go ahead and move on to Vincent.
No. It's
that's your fake
Vincent.
name.
That's your fake name. Yeah.
Is it?
My name is actually Chris, but on Instagram and Facebook, it's Vince Lortho, which is a Ghostbusters character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Major character.
You're good. You're good.
I'll go next since we're already talking about Vancouver and shit.
Let's do it.
Yeah. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, dude?
Fucking pretty good, man. Getting a lot of shit done out here.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, if anything, yeah, because you are pretty connected with Chris and his story as well. Let's go ahead and go back as far as possible. The time is yours. You take as much time as you need. Tell us your story. Tell us how you got into being a bass guitarist, bro. Because I'm a bass guitarist myself too, so I get
Right
it.
on, man.
I'm not as seasoned at all, and I still need to get a couple of covers on my fucking YouTube channel. Like, I'm working on it, but you are definitely a bassist if you're operating as a bassist within this project and are already cranking music, and you're there in person with these boys. You're getting you guys just got that music video done. You know what I mean? So you're there. You're an active bassist. Tell us your story, man. Start from the beginning or as early as you wish to. That is.
Yeah, man. So I'm 26 years old right now. I started playing bass when I was 13. My main project, or like first project, Riftwalker out of Vancouver, Canada, we're like a progressive death metal band. And that was my first thing, kind of honing my skills and stuff. And I met Chris when I was around 17 years old.
2013 or something.
Yeah, 2014, 2015.
You joined another band in 2013.
Yeah, I joined Cadaveric Lividity, and we hit it off right away and played lots of shows together. Really got along, and we played in that other band, Yellow Swagectomy, together, and just big, big, I don't know, just big vibes all around with Chris, and we just had a really similar writing style, and it was really easy to throw ideas off of one another. And when he asked me to join this project, man, I jumped at the chance, and I was really, really down to be a part of it. And meeting all these guys in person for the first time, it's a real like breath of fresh air being down here. Like I said, I come all the way from Vancouver, so yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He literally didn't have an audition. I just was like, do you want to play bass? He said, yeah.
And also, when we picked him up at the airport, it was like, yo, you're real, bro. Countless video calls and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you're gonna play.
Yeah. I've been in the band for like 3 years now, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, like 2.5, 3 years. And this is our first time actually all getting together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also in Vancouver currently, I'm going to school for my contemporary bass studies diploma. So I'm studying like jazz and classical music and stuff, like harmony,
Hell
and
yes.
counterpoint, and 16th century choral voice leading and stuff like that. So I'm real big into music, all types of music and stuff like that. But I play death metal. I love the brutal shit. So that's what I do.
That's why we're here, man.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people who don't.
Normies.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll leave those people alone. No, it's awesome, man. And it's like it's cool to know. It's cool to find out when you're talking with musicians like this on a podcast, and they're actually doing the fucking homework. They're going to school to be more like involved academically with the instrument of choice. Like that's admirable, dude. That's I love to hear that.
Yeah.
I love that for you, and I can only hope that it's not like incredibly taxing or just like you don't want to make anything, you don't want to do anything too much, you don't want to like what is the word, what is the analogy, it's like
worthwhile.
Yeah, well, you don't want to make it to where it's not fun anymore, but no,
it's not fun.
Like that.
It's a lot of hard work. It's like, honestly, being in music school, you think you're going to play your instrument. No, it's a lot of book learning.
Exactly.
It's a lot of writing music, a lot of manuscripts, a lot of writing notes, man. And like, it's cool though, because like that knowledge stays with you forever, right?
But he's the one token dude that knows all the theory, all the bullshit. Like none of these dudes do. He knows a little bit, but me and him are the like smooth brain slam guy.
No, like we just know why we said what sounds sick.
Yeah. I've been trying to teach these guys scales, but no, we're not learning that right now.
No, dude, it's seriously such a big part of it. But like for a lot of musicians, including myself, dude, high school, I did like beginning and intermediate guitar. But before I did intermediate guitar, they threw me into a music theory class. I was seeing the sheet paper. I'm like, oh, fuck this. I'm out. Like, can I go back next door? And that's exactly what happened. Like the first 5 minutes.
Honestly, bro, like I can read music, but tabs are just way easier.
Yeah,
For sure, man.
Like I can read it.
Agreed.
It's like I'm slow at it, but like I can do it. But it's not my first choice when I'm learning songs and shit.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's a whole different animal.
I also play another slam band out of Vancouver called Cryptic Enslavement. So
yeah.
check us out.
Boy,
Yeah.
Yui?
Yeah, Yui actually did a guest. Yui did a guest solo on one of the early Pretext to Human Suffering songs, like way back. But yeah, other than that, that's like basically my story, bro. Just jamming in Vancouver, meeting Chris, and then now I'm out here doing
Yeah.
shit
Boneless Mexico.
in boneless Mexico.
Oh, really? You guys are in Mexico right now?
No,
No.
boneless Mexico.
Boneless Mexico.
Boneless.
Yeah.
Right on the border. Right on the border.
Nice, nice. No, that's and I can definitely like I'm like, there's a lot of desert going on where they are. Like, where
Oh,
are
yeah,
they?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm based in Phoenix, born and raised in Phoenix, but I'll tell you what, I am definitely not meant to be a desert rat. I just happen to be obligated to it. Like my whole life started here. So it's like, I would rather not be a desert rat, but I guess I am anyways.
Yeah.
And
It's
definitely
always 3-digit weather out there.
yeah. Oh, dudes. I hate it. I hate it
I know.
so much.
Family there.
It's awful out here, man. And especially now, like it's 100 degrees right now, dude. I'm like, I'm not fucking going outside, dude. Screw that. Like,
Yeah.
that is
It's
death.
sweaty ball syndrome.
Yes. Seriously. Like that's definitely the sweaty ball things, swamp ass and all that. That's definitely more
Yeah.
of an eastern thing. But like it can happen out here. It's just like basically when you're fighting the dry heat with, like a swamp fan or something like that. That's when you start to get swamp ass. And you're like, dude, I just might as well jump into a pool or go to the lake. Like this is ridiculous.
That's South Texas and Louisiana weather. Unforgiving.
Unforgiving. I happened to get a sample of that with freaking Goldilocks Zone, Middle Tennessee, baby. Like that was a fun chapter of my life. I hope to return there one day. And the funny thing is, I do prefer like humidity and stuff like that over the dry heat any day. Because if it's here, it feels like I'm in conventional umping, bro. I'm like, no, I don't want to dry out and just set on fire eventually. But,
Yeah, right.
yeah. But Spencer, being that I have your Instagram pulled up, low key, I'm stalking it right now, just like going through.
Yeah, man.
Okay, here's the man of the hour. But if anything, I definitely did want to ask and be that person. Do you remember your first bass guitar?
Yeah, my first bass guitar was a 4-string Squire P bass, and then shortly after that, I got a 4-string BC Rich Warlock, and then after that, I had a 6-string LTD B416 SM. And then after I've had like over 30, 40 guitars. Right now, I recorded this album with a Dingwall, and that's actually like a Dingwall NG3.
Right.
I shipped it down here just to remain consistent with everything. So I shipped it down here, and that's the bass I'm using. I use it for the music video. I'm using it to do scratch tracks and pre-pro for this album and stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm playing right now. I like it a lot, and it's good for these low tunings because we play in drop G, so it's hard to get a bass to like intonate well when you're tuning that low, and you got to use thick strings and everything. Yeah. And even then, it's not perfect.
They might as well be metallic ropes, bro.
Yeah. No, it's like fucking suspension bridge cables, man.
For sure.
Oh my god, dude. That's I just thought about that too. Like that sounds so terrible on the fingers, but it's fat. It's thick. And that's how you prefer it half the time. So
it's thick. It's definitely thick.
And if anything too, I definitely wanted to ask bassist to bassist, did you start with the bass guitar or did you get an acoustic or electric guitar first?
Oh, the other way.
That's my
oh Jesus.
Yeah, it's 145 for the
oh my god.
It's pretty thick.
Pretty fucking thick. That's
I've only ever actually played, like when I was a kid, I played piano, and then in elementary school I played trumpet. But as in terms of string instruments, as string instruments go, all I've really played is bass, man. Like I've only played bass. I play bass in 3 bands right now, and that's all I've ever played. It's what I do.
Everybody needs a bassist, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to, pull away from what I'm good at.
But yeah, the reason I love Spencer is because he plays with his fingers and not a pick too. Like that's a big fucking thing I think is super rad. Is I love bass players that play with their fingers instead of a pick.
The ladies must be happy for me.
Oh.
I think it's more the drummer playing blast beats.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man. And let's see. How long have you been in like obviously you have your 3 bands, you have Cryptic Enslavement, you have Riftwalker. Riftwalker was your earliest project, right?
Correct.
Right. And let's see. Do you have a favorite?
I mean, a lot of the bands, the other 2 bands have been kind of like inactive for a while, and this band's picking up so much steam, and like it's really cool to see shit actually getting done.
Yeah.
That like right now is a top priority, but it's hard to say, man. I love playing all different types of music, so
Yeah.
I couldn't really say. It's like, do you have a favorite child? Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly.
Not
And
the
that's-
very question.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely about putting a little bit of pressure on there, but not like prying too much because we don't want to be annoying here on the Crosscast. But
I
let's
love
see.
these boys a lot. I'll say that.
Yeah,
We love
that's
you
what's
too, bro.
important.
Like, here.
Absolutely. Hell yeah, dude. Well, if anything, we've been talking a lot and we've been learning about your history, and apparently my dogs are going the fuck off right now. I don't know why. Yeah.
We
Puppos.
don't have a home invasion.
I hope not, bro. I'm doing a podcast right now. I can't move. I'm kidding.
Wow.
But anyways, Spencer, as we're continuing to learn about you as the bassist, like let's see.
Let's get into West. West.
Dig more,
Right.
right?
You want to ask my 5 favorite bands?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, basically at this point.
Well, what really got me going? I'll give you my 5 favorite death metal bands, and like that really influenced me, and then I'll give you like some of my favorite bass players. But I'd say off the top of my head, like Dying Fetus, Black Dahlia, Quo Vadis, Beyond Creation.
2 more.
That's 4.
That's 3.
That's 3.
Yeah.
Dying Fetus, Quo Vadis, Beyond Creation, Black Dahlia.
Oh, sorry.
That's 4. Yeah.
Can't count.
And then fuck, man. Let's just say Suffocation, because I love Suffocation.
Suffocation.
Derek Boyer, obviously a huge influence on me. So yeah, in terms of like big death metal bass players influence on me, Derek Boyer, Dominic LaPointe, Jerome Paul Thesseling from Obscura, all those guys, and then Evan Brewer, and then other bass players. Like I'm a huge Victor Wooten guy. I love Adam Nitty. I love basically anyone who plays fast with their fingers, man. That's my shit.
That's kind of the formula. That's you gotta keep it moving, you gotta keep it fast. And that allows you to continue being fast. Your freaking Sonic mindset over here. But that's absolutely incredible, and much appreciation to you, Spencer, for deciding to provide us with a little bit of your background as a bassist. And maybe one day we'll be having Riftwalker and Cryptic Devourment, right? Okay.
Cryptic Enslavement. Same shit.
Yeah. Same shit. Hopefully. Maybe one day we'll be getting them on the podcast instead.
Oh yeah, man. We love that. We love that, bro.
More coverage, more bands, bigger encyclopedia. Let's go.
Definitely, bro.
Part 3, let's go ahead and let's bring up Beto.
Oh. Hey.
Your turn, buddy. All right. Start as early as you wish to. We want to, this is your time, man. This is your time to shine. This is your time to talk about yourself, like boost your ego a little bit, whatever you want to do. Or like if you have one. Because everybody has one, but that's okay.
Well, my name is Beto. I'm 23 years old, and I'm a musician from Juarez, Mexico. And I happen to be playing in bands here in El Paso and with these fools from elsewhere but El Paso. I started playing guitar when I was around 7. And then, I have my little middle school, high school bands, which they're I don't want to count them. But my first band was Defleshed and Gutted around 20.
Talking about this.
Liquid Death. Well, yeah, I joined in 2019, and so I did for Devour the Unborn. We're basically the same dudes, and he was included in both projects. And then when COVID happened, I wasn't able to come to the United States for almost 2 years because I'm a Mexican citizen, and for the time being, I couldn't cross to El Paso. And that's when I told you about how we got the Pretext shit going on. And, here we are. I personally like lots of metal subgenres, and when I write music, I really don't like to stick to a certain genre. I just like to be fast and stick, or sometimes I just want to be like primitive and slow and like knuckle dragging. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that would be it. And I think it's pretty cool that I have a project going on with dudes from different parts of the States and Canada. It's just like it's fucking amazing, man.
Yeah, it makes it a lot bigger. Like it's very unique because even just like 50 years ago, you wouldn't really hear about a band with members based in different countries. Like that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So nowadays it's like the creative boundaries are infinite. You have so many projects where the drummer or something is over in Slovakia, like Chris mentioned earlier. And then, over time, when people are wanting something more physical, something more in person, that's when you like decide whether or not you want to try to recruit people that are familiar with what you want and are able to play what's already there, and then you make it a live band. You know what I mean? So
we're lucky enough to have everybody from like North America, so like that makes a huge difference instead of having people from fucking like Russia or Japan and shit. So like
we're all the same side of the world.
We're looking to we're gonna make our live debut in 2024 when these two guys are done with their school schedule, and we're gonna be touring and playing shows in 2024.
Yeah.
Badass.
We're just taking like this time to promote our record and build our
music prison, if you will. We're locked up in an Airbnb in El Paso and doing a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. It sounds absolutely fun. I cannot wait for the day, ladies and gentlemen, for those listening, where it's me and the guys in Blind, man. Whether it be me, my sister, because she's a new addition, or like any of the other members that end up becoming a part of the project. Like I cannot wait for the days when we're getting Airbnbs or when we're going to specific places to film music videos, because that's the fucking life force of a band. At the end of the day, you can have all the music, you can have all the content. That way you have source material and be like, yeah, we actually did write an EP or we actually did write an album, but now it's like the next step is getting people in our local area, recruiting, right? It's like basically the actual material behind the band. That's the poster, man. Like that's the here, we're hiring. Please join if you know how to do blast beats. Please, we need a drummer. That's kind of the epitome.
That's the fucking hardest part, bud, is the fucking drummer.
It's the hardest
big
part.
shout out to our boy.
Hell yeah.
Oh man, we love it. Yeah.
Cool kid.
Thanks for joining our band.
Actually left this morning.
Right.
This morning, otherwise we would have done the podcast as well. And it was like my bad. We were supposed to do this Friday, but I was like literally I drove around all day. Like I had to pick up a drum kit for the music video, like I had to pick up shit at Guitar Center and shit. Like it was all
it's just the logistics for that day were so fucked, man, and everyone was so tired.
It's my bad. Just totally slipped my mind, so I apologize again.
No, you're good. You're good, man. I really don't mind because I've had situations before, not to name any bands out because I'm not fucking stupid. But I've had bands, we had to delay for a month or a week, or we had to delay like consecutively week after week. And I'm like, okay, are we actually doing this? Do you guys hate me? What's going on?
No, we really wanted to do it for sure while we were like together too. We definitely wanted to do it as much of a full band as possible.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, nonetheless, we're here now. We're doing the podcast session, and that's what really counts. Is we're putting this in the books,
Yeah.
and most likely, no matter what happens, this will be part one. And then when you guys are releasing your next album, I'll bring you right back. Or
Yeah, sure, man. We'd be down for sure.
Oh,
All right, your sound cut out. There you go.
haha.
Yeah. There you go.
It does that. Like, this is a Shure SM7B. Do a better job, people. It's ridiculous. But if anything, Beto, the same way that I ended up asking Spencer, do you remember your first guitar? And to add a little bit more spice, that way I'm not actually asking the same question. That would be part A. Part B, are you satisfied with your current rig, or are you like really just daydreaming about like a $8,000 guitar? Obviously, that's a fake number, but you know, how are you looking with your gear right now, man? Are you satisfied or?
Oh hell yeah, man! I love playing Legator guitars. I bought both of them back in 2020, and ever since I've just been very happy with them. They just play like butter. I just love the way it feels to play. And my first guitar, you know, it was a shitty Ibanez, like $300 Ibanez.
Geo.
Yeah,
Geo,
Geo,
yeah.
a Geo blue guitar that I bought. Then my parents bought for me for my birthday back in Torreon, Mexico, which I lived for like 2 years. And I got another Schecter Omen 6 with active pickups, which I still own to this day. I bought it in, well, my parents bought it for me 2011. And yeah, and by the way, they helped me out in getting my guitars. This is the one that I use for a Pretext. This is the one that I use to record the album with. I swapped the pickups for Elysian, which were made by Adam Bath, who used to work for the Guitar Marie. He like got his own patent. I don't remember exactly how that worked, but they sound killer, man. I love this guitar so much, and it's multi-scale, as you can tell. And I don't know, man. I'm so in love with these guitars. And but I haven't owned many instruments throughout the years that I played guitar.
All three of us played
Legator.
Yeah, we all played the same guitars.
Ooh, hell yeah. Bringing all the gear in. Let's go.
There's the ding wall.
Ding, ding, ding. I love it. It looks gorgeous.
Slap
Looks
that
great.
Yeah, man. It's real sick. I love it.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Slap me.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. And I appreciate both of you for sharing your gear, because that's something brand new to the podcast. We usually, I usually don't think to be like, hey, can you show me your guitar? You know.
Oh yeah, no, we just started grabbing their guitars because they're right next to us. So
Yeah, you got the whole setup like right behind this camera.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Absolutely. Well, fantastic, man. And if anything, Beto, if you could do me a favor, and just like the rest of the boys, a little bit of pressure, you know, zoning in on you. You are the primary target of these like next 2 minutes or something. I don't know. Go ahead and provide me 5 different albums, bands, or just musicians in general who have really like motivated you.
More than pleased, man. I love Origin. The album Antithesis was like a key album for the making of Endless Cycle of Suffering. So was Decapitated Winds of Creation, Abominable Putridity, Anomalies of Artificial Origin. I'm such a slut for that album. And even their new record too, which, by the way, this is the shirt that I'm wearing.
Yes.
And
you didn't say Death yet.
Oh, Death? Yeah. Well, that's old school death metal, but Death is one of my all-time favorite bands, and Decrepit Birth as far as like tech death goes. But like I'm also like a big fan of like, you know, a whole bunch of subgenres like deathcore. Even I really like Ingested. Well, if you want to call it deathcore, slamming, or whatever the fuck, I that's another influential album. Job for a Cowboy. Well, the death metal Job for a Cowboy. Cognitive and the Kennedy Veil. Yeah, those are like the key artists and key albums for the making of this record that we just put out.
Fuck yeah, dude. Awesome. And thank you for sharing your story with us. Wesley, you're final. You are the last one, bro.
Come closer, boy. We don't fight.
Come closer. Come closer. This dude's fucking huge, bro. Hello, hello, my friend. It's good to finally get you on the podcast. Like when I really think about it, I've been trying to get you on the podcast for like the last year or so because I've been like, hey, Stevie, like, come on, let's go.
Give me Soul on there.
Yeah. I mean,
Stevie.
I hope to, but you know, he seems to be really busy. So
Oh yeah, and I know with the last album, I hope we all make it out alive. He just released it and was like, "This is it, Soul's done."
yeah.
So that's how I know. That's pretty
But-
much what it is. Like we talked with him playing games and stuff like that, so he's still around and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's a complete stranger. So there could be something, maybe, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you know, welcome to the podcast, man. It's good to have you on. I know you're in so many projects, including freaking shout out to Joker Baby with Possession with Intent, man. I know you're part of that project, and you know we did content recently for that. Most likely we'll be hosting that band on the Anatomy Pod Crosscast in the future, so you'll be right fucking back on the podcast here pretty soon.
Again. Definitely.
But
yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, sir. For starters, let's go ahead and go back as early as possible. But because I know and I have a feeling that you've been in a lot of band projects, my friend, let's go ahead and kind of chunk out how you ended up getting involved with the Pretext to Human Suffering, all that fun stuff.
Okay. Well, basically with that, just Chris had hit me up, like being in Defleshed and Gutted. We had a little bit of time where it was just kind of, we had just dropped the split, or no, it was before that. We were in the middle of writing the split and doing some work. And then basically it was just, you know, him saying, hey, well, I got this project. I had heard a track that Bethel sent me. And I thought it was his, but it was you that wrote that. And he's like, damn, that was so sick. It's exactly what I need for this project. I need this kind of brutality. Can you come through? Sure. And I mean, I did a guest solo for the EP for Rotting Sanctum for Humanity's Final Cleanse.
Yeah.
So I came through on that one and just did like a solo. And I was like, all right, I'll just do this real quick. And then it was like, hey, you know, if you want to, just stay on, dude. So here I am.
Here you are. Here you are, man. And probably like one of the biggest and like bulkiest dudes I've had on the podcast. Dude, this guy's fucking huge, bro.
Yeah, I'm like 264, dude.
I'm like maybe 220. I'm But if anything, too, you know, being that you ended up getting into a Pretext through kind of your like God tier riffage, I can only assume. I take it you're more of like the shreddy guy, right? For a Pretext.
I love to play fucking fast. That's the problem. Like a lot of people are like, you know, tech in a lot of ways where they're all over a board or they're going from chords to chords that are just super hard. And I'm just a dude that's like, fuck it, let's just play this thing super fucking fast and then slam them down and kill them. Like, fuck it. Stop it on a dime.
That's the whole vibe of this shit for sure.
Yeah, seriously, dude. Oh my God. Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about it. Like when I brought the song Shadow of Time to the album. I don't know if you've heard that track yet, but
yes,
there's a part in there that legitimately is like a faceless nod, kind of, and it was just like Spencer going, "Hey man, fuck that part, dude." Yeah, I didn't even think about it like that. Like I was like, "Oh man, like you know." So it's all fun, but like that's where it's just like, yeah, a lot of the times I've just always wanted to go fast. But like my other band that I have too, Inhuman Atrocities, we have a song called like Dead on the Slab. I think that shit's like 280 BPM. Then the blast is like yeah, dude. Seriously. It's always like meat grinder shit all the time with me. Like Beneath the Massacre is like somebody that I've always heard. And I've been like, oh yes, bring it through, bring that speed, man. You know. So and that's like a little benchmark.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And if anything, you know, now that we've kind of like addressed and had you speak on behalf of like your entry into a Pretext to Human Suffering, I want to go back, like, let's go back in time a little bit. And let's go ahead and talk about your background and how you ended up becoming a guitarist and just jumping across all these different projects. But first, of course, you know, how'd you get into guitar?
Oh, well, the way I got into guitar was literally, me and my dad were throwing out the trash one day in my apartment building, and then freaking we found one in the trash. And it was just like the neck had come apart with the wood. So my dad, we just put a clamp on it, put adhesive, put a screw through it, dude. And I had like the worst intonation, but we made it work because it was like, hey, here's an acoustic now. And so that's how I started playing. But prior to all that, and like not having really, you know, saying like music theory and knowing scales and things like that, I basically kind of do, but I used to play stand-up bass. I used to play viola, violin, cello, and all those kind of things, but it was like third grade.
Right.
And we're playing Disney songs and shit. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it was just something to learn. I think Peckleball Cannon was like one of the hardest songs we ended up playing and whatever. But like, that's a pretty basic classical music thing. I played all these different levels where it was like, I was a violin. Oh, there's too many violins. Go to viola. All right, now we're starting to have a lot of violas. Can you go to the cello because you're a bigger dude? How about stand-up bass? Because we need that. Okay, boom. And there it was. I'm all in the bass.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and then that's where my parents originally bought me a fucking bass. It's like School of Rock, fucking cello. You got a bass. Like straight up, dude. That's what they did. My mom just said, hey, here's a Dean. And I just came home and it was like a Dean Playmate, little 4-string. And I'm like, cool, man. And then I just started learning Red Hot Chili Peppers, Smoke on the Water and shit like that. So,
Hell yeah, dude.
But then it was like just years of kind of just fucking around on bass. It went into, oh, I found this trash can guitar and then made it work. And then next thing I know, it was like Alberto said, we were walking through Guitar Center and here's a 7-string Ibanez of some little $200, $300 special that was like, yoink, give me that. I'll pick that RG7 up real quick and just start jamming. And then that's all we were doing, just playing deathcore, playing metalcore, going throughout all the years of playing all this different stuff, man. So, but that's kind of something that's always kind of helped with, I guess, the writing that I've done. That is like I've been playing forever, probably like 20-something years now, to be real with you. And it's like I've gone from being in a metalcore band to like going grindcore to going like weird noise and like all these different things, back to deathcore, back to brutal death metal, just trying the different things. It was like, oh, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. And then that was kind of what was like the magic of this band, which is kind of sick, is the fact that we're just getting together. Chris kind of had all this music kind of plotted out with the first EP. It was his baby. Showed us a couple songs that he had. Beto had a couple songs. We had a couple songs. We actually worked together, and it wasn't like, no, this is my song. You can't change it. No. None of that. Like, we actually worked.
We'll do that shit.
And it's continually like kind of flourishing, like on its own. Like nobody's having like a real ego about anything. It's just an actual
and I gotta,
melting pot.
And I gotta point that out because that's what people enjoyed of our band, and it's pretty cool. You know, it's when you're writing music or you're making a record, sometimes it's very easy to get it caught in your own head, but apparently this approach is what made people like our stuff. And so it's like, okay, that means this the way that we are going about things.
Definitely nobody in this project has an ego of any kind, and that's like a huge pet peeve of mine. Is like I cannot stand people that think they're fucking better than somebody else or come off like arrogant. Like that's a hell no. So all these guys are just normal dudes.
Good.
It's really easy for all of us to get along, man. It's very natural.
Yeah. And I can tell you one thing, brother. Like, there's one thing that's taught me something that I listened to this message. Because I can straight up say, Chuck D always says, pay attention, the cheapest thing you'll ever do. So if you're listening, listen, you yourself, whatever, pay attention, cheapest thing you'll ever do. Right? But my littlest niece, I sent some CDs back to like my family in Arkansas. My littlest niece is 7, and they start putting on the album. And this isn't us, it's another band. But they play a song, then they play the next song, then they get to like the 3rd song, and my niece goes, hey, Pawpaw. He's like, yeah, baby, what's up? Why is it the same song? Right there, it's like, damn, dude. Like, you're making the song that's just the same ass song over and over and over again to a little kid who doesn't know anything about music. That tells you suck. Like, you know, it's like, better go back, dude. So, like, that's where I love the band, too, of, like, all these songs don't start like every time. Nothing wrong with it. It's not just the blast, but we're giving you some taste, you know. It's a sampler of all these different things, which is fucking great.
Yeah,
you know?
and nonetheless,
Yeah.
like a pretext to human suffering, it is built upon the ashes of relentless, just brutal death metal. And like Chris said, like Spencer said, like Beto said, there are all these major influences. Of course, overarching, it's like slam slash death metal slash like OG death metal and metal and shit.
Yeah.
Lots of metal, lots of freaking iron, steel, like bronze, all this type of shit. A lot of
Boundary.
armor being made. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, a pretext to human suffering is ruthless, but it's recognized, and it's music that's made as a band should make music. Like there's everybody's in agreement, everybody's in unity. Like Chris, you said, there's like no song on this record where it's like, this is my song, don't fucking touch my song. It's like, no, this is our song. You know, it could be the freaking Bugs Bunny communist, you know, I mean, just like, this is our song. Like,
Yeah, straight up, dude. Split it up.
so I love
the
that.
hammer just ding.
Yeah. Right
on.
And that's what really makes music work so well. It's really what rocks the charts in the end, is when everybody can confirm for themselves and also have it confirmed via podcast. Hello. That, you know, everybody's working together. There's no fucking egos involved. That's what really makes music solid shit. And it's cool to know that, you know, despite all these prior projects that you've had before, that ended up kind of being like, well, your resume, that ended up being your portfolio. Now you're bringing it all together, you're mashing it, you're like putting it in the blender, genre-radically speaking, and now you're like, okay, so I got Possession with Intent, but I also have a Pretext to Human Suffering, which is like just this interesting international project where you got multiple people across, well, the Western Hemisphere, really, and they're all just coming together to make ruthless music. It's like, it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to record in history for deep underground heavy fucking counterculture. And I can't stress it enough. It's an honor to have a project like this on the podcast, and to also utilize the opportunity whilst you guys just accomplished everything that you have already, cranking new music despite the album I just listened to, and I'm like, what the fuck, there's already more stuff coming. But that's like it's like I said, people, it's like I say on the channel, the great eternal music machine, it keeps cranking, it doesn't fucking stop. And the moment it stops, it's because there's water rusting the gears. Don't be the water. You got to continue cranking with the gears. So without a doubt, man, like I don't know, compared to previous projects and all of the projects that you've been into or that you've been involved with, Wesley, what would you say kind of stands out with the Pretext to Human Suffering? Would it be, you know, the massive like Western Hemisphere collaboration aspect to it? Would it be the relentlessness? Would it be the speed? Like, what's the thing that's really stood out to you that you love about this project?
Honestly, it's the way the riffs do hit. There's a lot of that stuff where, like, we were listening to the mixes, like the sample mixes of the album, and it was like I'd be at the gym, dude, and I'm like running on the treadmill, and like for instance, like the song Formless Collective has a filter part of it where it's like the setup of the breakdown, and it goes quiet. Just the way that whole I was like getting pumped up, fucking trying to hit the stupid fucking thing as I'm running, dude, because it was just hyping me like I was listening to Body Snatcher or something like that, you know? And like that's the thing about like the songs, and they all do have that ruthless savagery to them. They all got the speed and the quickness to it. Like honestly, the songwriting Sanctum has some very crazy like it's just fucking going off, and I like that it just streamlined razor sharp riffs. You know, like that's kind of what we kept going with the album, because it's like I feel like a lot of bands, like no shade to anybody, but a lot of guys are into being like slower, you know, heavy single note riffs right now, and it's like that's cool, but like that's not what we do, you know. And I love that it's got that energy because it keeps me entertained in a way. Because there's some albums that will be great, but I mean, I could hear like 2 or 3 songs and be like, all right, I could change it now. Like, sadly, even though it's a great album. But,
and don't forget, the ominous atmospheres that we have on our record that just doesn't make this brutal death metal so conventional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. Got a lot
Agreed.
of spice, a lot of flavors.
A lot of spice and everything nice. And I mean, of course, you know, like you mentioned before, there are a lot of bands who are just like kind of getting slower with their breakdowns. And it's like, as far as I'm concerned, that's kind of like the beat down blue cheese, right? And that's I don't know why. That's the first thing that came to my head. It's like it's rotten, but it's still edible, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you're
Still
throwing
edible.
that freaking beat down blue cheese, like last 10 seconds of life, pale face,
Oh, yeah.
orphan, you know, that type of stuff. And once you add that in, of course, you have no choice but to kind of slow down. Maybe you take it's like taking a hit off of a vape, because apparently we're going from a blue cheese analogy to taking a hit off a Juul or some shit. You know?
Yeah.
Like fucking whack, bro.
We play so
Step
fast.
up, yeah.
We play at speeds that when we slow down, it doesn't necessarily need to be that. So you know what I'm saying? Like comparatively, like when you're blasting at like 290 beats per minute, when you're going into your breakdown or like your heavier section of a song, when you're halftiming that, it's so fast. But yeah, I don't know. And like nothing is really like forced in like with a mindset like we need to do this, this, and this for like our music. It's just like we write riffs, and if we fucking dig them, we use them, and that's it. Like that's how we write our music.
Exactly.
It's like I was saying before, we try to create movement. We don't give a shit about like having to repeat riffs, or like we do sometimes, we don't sometimes. It's just however the song feels as a composition, and that's it. It's we only give a shit about how the song like moves around and hits. That's it.
Yeah, you break it down to creative instinct, and sometimes that's the best way to make music is just by like, okay, this feels right. It's like, but what if it's not beat down enough? It's like, who gives a fuck, bro? It's my music.
Exactly, dude.
Just say slander enough. Yeah.
Seriously.
Tickets come. We have some tickets from the Slam Police. We gotta
absolutely, man. Fuck yeah. Oh my god, it's Slam Police. Oh my god, that takes me back.
They took our hammers away for right now.
Well, either way, as we're digging deeper into the session, and we're like about halfway through now, taking up more than enough of these gentlemen's time. If anything, Wesley, go ahead and off the top of your head, same thing as the rest of the guys, go ahead and drop 5 different albums, bands, people, anything that makes what you make like work, I guess. That was a terrible way of saying it, but just all these major musicians in your life that along the way have inspired you to do what you do for a pretext to human suffering, I guess, like isolating it down to one of your projects. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like really, off the top of my head, I could say like Simon from the band Nightmare or War from a Harlot's Mouth. That's always something that I think about. We want to have a certain darkness and stuff to these albums. We want it to like not only like hit you with it being heavy, but emotionally like make you mad. If you're actually listening to the album and you look at the lyrics of like what he's saying, like where there's some people who will say like the song Endless Cycles of Suffering, they'll complain, oh, these guys are poor. Like that's always like how you're just saying, right? But if you're looking at the actual lyrics at the end, I believe he says like very manically, like the cycle, the cycle, the cycle. Like it's literally got the emotional hit of it as well, where it's like it's hard, it's ominous, rude, fucking hard shit. And like that's a band like Nightmare or War from a Harlot's Mouth, where like I'll take an influence from them because they make some pretty fucking whacked out shit, and it's some pretty hard sounding stuff. Like, damn, dude. Like I could just go on and on and on talking about that, but that's definitely one of them. Like some of the leads that you hear in there, like Formless Collective, where it's a little more of the it's melodic and shit, but really it's like a fat nod to Abe Suzuki from Vital Remains. Dechristianize, Icons of Evil, tons of songs. Like, dude, that shit just rips. And that's like, I try to do the nod to that. Ralph Santolo is like another guitarist that I really like. Alexi Lejo from Children of Bodom. They got some really sick shit right there. Other than that, really, it's like the Red Chord and Animosity. Those are like bands that always like fucking just come through. I mean, Job for a Cowboy always kind of had something beneath the masker, but those were just bands that I listened to solidly. Decapitated solidly. You know, you can't really say like they're the top. Just a part of the DNA, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like I can hear the fucking just I'm trying to lay down and go to sleep, dude. It's ears and eyes for real. So it's just
with the creation.
yeah, dude. It's just, you know, no matter what, it's just they're fucking sick, dude. But yeah, Animosity is like a really one where like people will say, oh, there's deathcore bands, blah blah blah, and it's like, to me, Animosity and the Red Chord are real deathcore. Like, it's death metal, death grind, and it's actually got the cores, grindcore, hardcore. Like, it's all of it. It's not just that.
I
Like,
agree. That's like what I think of when I hear like someone say deathcore. I think of the same two bands as like actual death metal and actual like hardcore music together. It's like the Red Chord and Animosity, and they're both fucking huge influences and fucking awesome.
yeah, because I think if I remember correctly, there was a review that Lando did on the Animosity album Animal, and it was talking about the creativity and kind of like how some of our riffs are, where we try to make them a little more different. But there's a part on there where I guess the guy had actually said that Naveen never had solid blasting for longer than 5 or 7 seconds or something on that whole album. So it wasn't legit like how you usually hear stuff. It was like actual written out drums and like playing on all these like fucking rhythms and everything. It's
Yeah.
awesome, dude. Yeah,
Fantastic.
and Flesh Rot's a great one too.
Sweet. So definitely Animosity would be a rec.
Yeah, definitely. If you've never heard of, check out Animal, check out Empires.
Okay.
Fake Blood was like the first track that was like their popular one, but it's old school. So
Yeah,
that's old.
Right.
Fucking awesome. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Album.
Because they do have a lot of like hip hop and groove to them as well, which is pretty sick.
Fantastic. All right, cool.
Oh, yeah.
Well, boys, we are now done with the first half. I can sense it's like, oh fuck, this is only the first half.
First half. No,
but as we dive into the second half, being that apparently we are not eligible to utilize ads at this moment, because we need more people to be listening to the podcast. People, we need to at least get like 100 people every 2 months. So everybody start swarming in, please, like, so I can make at least start making pennies off of this podcast, bro.
right.
But anyways,
Definitely should on that one.
yeah, dude, seriously. Diving into the second half of the podcast, though, now we kind of address all of you as one collective person. You know, obviously the drummer is not there, so we don't have the entirety of a Pretext to Human Suffering, but we have 4 out of 5. 75%, 90%. We're pretty close to that percentage, and that's what's
we're not math experts.
We listen to Slam, so that makes sense.
I forgot fractions.
Whatever you say the percentage is.
Fantastic. But yeah, starting off, you know, I kind of want to ask a question, you know, as if it were you guys live in person, you're at your merch table, you got all these sweaty people coming up to you, as it is with live shows. And as one of those many sweaty people who's just like, dude, I love to form this collective. Freaking Wesley, I love the riffing in it. That was fucking insane. I think I broke my nose, but I'm doing pretty good. What was the name? What was the reasoning behind the name of the band? You know, just like out of nowhere, out of left field. Like, what was the meaning behind the band's name?
That's a great question.
It's basically all the content of this project is like written around like human suffering, like whether it be like mental or physical. That's pretty much all of what this is. Like the full length is just written about from my past like experience as a drug addict, like having an existential crisis of existence in a world where I literally feel like I don't belong existing here. Like I don't understand how to live or like why people live and do the things they do. And that's like pretty much what the entire album is about.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah. And that's pretty much like, I mean, like I said, like a lot of it is mental and a lot of it is like physical. And it's just, that's pretty much the entire concept of this project is human suffering.
Sweet.
But right now we were at the zoo enjoying ourselves, it's like we're happy dudes nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta balance it out, man. And I mean, projects like Spite, Like, dude, and this is something I've mentioned on the podcast so many times, just because it's like it's been so profound and it stood out to me as much as it has. But you know, just how Darius during the Root of All Evil cycle back in 2019, like 2019 to 2020, and basically, he described spite and everything that he writes for that project as being the healthiest outlet that he has. And if it wasn't for spite, he would be in a mental institution. He'd be in a psych ward. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, for sure. We can all fucking
We can vouch.
pretty much agree with those types of statements for sure.
right.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that shit's important, is when you do have a positive outlet. And I mean, especially the more ferocious, the more heavy, the more primitive, the more knuckle dragging,
That's shit.
Oh,
Uh,
your vocals went out again.
Can't hear you.
okay. Hala.
There you go.
there you go.
I don't get why. That's the second time. This thing is grounded, I swear. In big trouble. So I mean, more or less, it's like the more heavy you get, it's like if you're not ready to, you know, get a wife, much regret, you know, that type of shit. It's like, why are you writing that type of music if you don't have a really dark place to get the music from? I guess unless if you're like formerly Bro Job, you know, you got to mention them. And their former discography, they're like, fucking shut up about the, you know, the joke music. Like, we're trying to write serious shit now.
Sean,
Like-
and there is no sick riff coming out of a sane person's mind. I'll tell you that.
Seriously. It's like it all comes from a very dark and complicated place. And you know, that's why we have such a thorough and integrated community. It's like, yeah, we're all fucked up and we're all ready to murder half the time. It's like but we don't let our intrusive thoughts win, do we? You know, like it's insane. But that's really the authenticity behind it. You know what I mean? Like when you're writing music like that, if it doesn't come from a place of like not pure insanity, because that's dramatic, but you know, if it doesn't come from a dark place, like where is it coming from?
Yeah.
Like that's the question you got to ask yourself.
Yeah, that's like at least where the like lyrical content is coming from. Where the riffs are coming from is from our like insane brains that don't stop.
Like,
and also magic mushrooms and DMT. I wrote Architect of Reality on mushrooms, dude.
You partake in psychedelics.
Hence the name.
And then, you know, in Brazil, they do believe too that people that hear songs that aren't written, like say you're a songwriter and you hear it, like I don't know if you play music, you said, so I don't know if you have bass parts where you're like, oh shit, oh shit, and you're gonna start doing it. I'll run and start voice recording myself, but they believe that that's your ancestors singing your songs to you, like that's music that they're giving you, like in your family lineage. And
Or just a catalyst for
Yeah.
like divinity, whichever way you want to put it, because that's how I felt when I wrote Architect of Reality, man. It's just like I just felt like, whoa, I'm getting all this fucking information, and it just came out super natural, man. Too. It's like the atmosphere in that song that just like peak mushrooms fucking effect, man.
The Ophiocordyceps, dude, they're summoning me. Like
My ancestors are talking to me.
absolutely, man. That's badass. And like I have yet to partake in any psychedelics and stuff. And a part of me is really intimidated by the idea of doing that. But I will admit that like most of the time when it comes to the material for my own project so far, it's definitely been like I do not know how to play most of the shit that I want to put on paper. And that's where Soundtrap comes in. So like I can picture music videos, I can picture the silhouettes of people, and I think that's just good for like a directing purpose, I guess. Like I know exactly where I want everybody, and if you don't get right over there, I'm losing my shit. Like,
I get that shit, man. Like I got the same kind of brain where like I will picture like how we want to represent ourselves, like visually, like with the music video we just shot. Like we had very specific ideas for like the shots we wanted and like what we wanted and shit. Like, yeah, it's very specific, man.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And like you can only imagine, like with that in mind, the Brazilian like how you just mentioned that, like, that brings a whole new perspective in, like, yo, are my freaking great grandfathers and shit like sending me some freaking, like, sending me the mixtape through the brain?
They're like, hey, I know you play
Let me sign your teeth real quick.
dude, self-signed.
Yeah.
They say, hey, I know you're trying to play some Death Grand, so
Yeah.
this is what it would sound like, bro.
That's funny. That's a very interesting concept to think about. I like that. Just like, yeah, you need that fire. Here's that fire. Like,
Here's a real fire, yeah. I got you.
here's a real fire all the way through the astral plane, baby.
Hell
But
yeah, brother.
fantastic. If
Yeah.
anything, too, I know that Chris, more or less, you gave like an overarching lyrical summary for what Endless Cycle of Suffering is. But you know,
Yeah.
whilst we have conquered the meaning of the band name, would you mind real quick just kind of like providing like more specific lyrical like summaries for each of the tracks? And we just like kind of go through that pretty quickly, or
Let me see if I actually have a lyrics on this computer here. Hold on.
Okay.
Actually, I have a lyric book. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna say, yeah.
I can kind of go through track by track.
There you have it.
You know what? You can sit in the middle on that one.
Yeah, and the title track, Endless Cycle of Suffering, is basically feeling trapped by a substance, which was like particular substance was like being an opiate addict. And that's what the entire first track is about, is feeling like locked into this life cycle, like that you have no control over at a certain point, where you need a substance to literally just feel like a normal person, and everything else is crumbling around you in your life, and you literally like lose fucking everything, including your sanity and just will to keep on existing. That would be the first track. Sorry, this shit is hard to read in here.
sorry.
Oh, I'm talking about like in this book. It's hard to read. I need glasses.
I can read it for you if you want.
Architect of Reality is like on the same vibe as like what he was already mentioning. Like it was more about like kind of like processing some shit like with psychedelics. Auto Sanctuary is a song about living in the United States, and basically the title kind of sums that up, I think, where it feels like it's a hollow sanctuary for people. Everything here is like overly obviously corrupt, and like not understanding why we need to live the way that we're living, just like enslaved to debt and these corporations that run our government and country. And yeah. This is pretty much like the entire album content here. Like Formless is another. Formless and Void are both tracks in particular about, once again, psychedelics and like breaking through, like getting out of your own like normal consciousness and like going beyond like what you seem to normally understand.
Wait, before you move on, for
Yeah.
Formless, okay, I don't write lyrics for this project, but I kind of feel that Formless Collective was one of the songs that I try to put words into music, right? And it was like the vibe of it was to make it sound like something that's otherworldly, like, you know, Lovecraft or aliens or that kind of shit. That's why it sounds like alien as fucking like.
And that's kind of the vibe of that, like lyrically, specifically for that track. Shadow of Time is also kind of along the same theme as like Endless Cycle of Suffering, kind of like a continuation of that song lyrically, almost. What else do we have? Paradox. And like, yeah, those are like, basically, those are the two main themes of this album vocally, are like, just struggling with your own existence and then like trying to find a way to understand and like continue on and belong, like just keep not kill yourself. Like try to figure out a way and understand why you're here, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's basically the whole album. And
cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's why that'd be the best breakdown I can. Yeah, I would say that I can do. Yeah.
Pretty
No, you're good.
straightforward, man.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. Yeah, I like it. And sometimes, you know, every now and then it's like the more or less the reason I do what I call under the skin, the track by track
Yes.
lyrical analysis, is there could be tiny little details that kind of separate certain tracks from others. But I mean,
No, I get you. Yeah, no, for sure.
absolutely. So in that case, ladies and gentlemen, that was Endless Cycle of Suffering, kind of a quick like speed run track by track, but because, you know, overarching lyrical themes that kind of resonate throughout the entire album. And if it's not about, you know, fuck the government and, you know, like we're trying to just exist right now. If it's not about that, it's about psychedelic experiences. It's about going beyond yourself spiritually and mentally.
It's like the whole thing is literally not it's like starting out as a person, like you're existing in this world, you don't feel like you exist in the way, or you don't understand like why you're here, you feel like you don't belong here, like you don't understand why things are the way they are, you self-medicate, get addicted to these substances, then you're stuck in the substance and you kind of have to like claw your way out of that substance, and then you have to like once again go back into that existential crisis of trying to like find your place. And then like it's just commentary on like the things that are wrong or that I feel are like wrong with how human beings everywhere like in this world, just like how we are or how we exist. You know what I mean?
If I may interject, it seems like a concept album based on your own experience.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And sometimes that's the best place to pluck it from, is to get as like raw and personal as possible and reflect upon a darker point of your life. That way you can bring awareness and try to make sure that other people don't fall into that same path. You know what I mean?
It's a very honest like album, like lyrically, you know what I'm saying? Like from the place that I'm coming from, like I'm not really ashamed of what I've done. Like I've done some really shitty things in my past. I'm not like proud of them, but I'm not necessarily ashamed of what I've done. I mean, I am who I am, and it's made me who I am as a person today. So,
exactly, dude.
I'm here with these guys, so.
Right. And I mean, as my own, like I try not to milk it really. And what I mean is like my own band's name, Blind Without Our Failures. We are all blind without our failures. We are all blind without the obstacles we have to conquer in life. If you don't live with failure, if you don't live and, you know, take responsibility for certain actions, if you don't feel any negative effects from actual casualties or tragedies in your own life personally because of your own doing, you can never learn what consequence is. You can never learn what responsibility is. You can never receive that, even that temporary, like more profound, but still temporary ecstasy of accomplishment, of taking care of yourself and taking care of those around you, or just helping make sure that you are living a sustainable life. You are blind without the fight to get that done. So, you know, again, without milking my own band's name as much as possible,
you're good, man.
It ends up resonating really well. And I'm glad that, you know, instead of calling it just Blind, because, you know, you think of all these bands with just one word and they're like, it's better for marketing. I'm like, well, no, if you're going to make music and invest thousands of dollars over time into music, into your art, and this is, of course,
be honest. Come from a like real place. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what is gonna be what resonates with people the most, is just being honest, man. Like don't put up this front of trying to be like this person or that person. Just be yourself and fucking make honest music.
Yes.
Well, there's a saying where if you see a successful person, like they failed more times than you've succeeded.
For sure.
Because the road to success is littered with failures, right?
Yeah.
So you have to fail so many times before you are able to actually make something worthwhile or successful, or worth hearing or seeing or watching.
Yeah. Right? Absolutely, for sure.
That's fucking meant, if you ask me. And I think that's a great way to end the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So much appreciation to everybody stopping by who ends up listening to this. Please listen to the very end, because, you know, lore and, you know, just concreting this band's story, talking about them as people, lyrically dissecting Endless Cycle of Suffering right after they're like, you know, they've had a pretty good cooking session per se. as far as music and just getting shit done where they are right now, making moves for this project, man. It's really awesome to be a part of all of these bands' stories with time. And if anything else, if this doesn't, for example, end up being as big as the Garza podcast or Electric Theater, Sean Clown Cron of Slipknot, his podcast, where he's actually talking with bigger people in the industry, even if it doesn't ever end up being as big as those, because you shouldn't have that expectation if you're, slowly building something from the bottom, slowly piecing together crumbs and then making the bread, because that's just how life works sometimes.
Absolutely.
It's
everything works.
Yeah, it's exactly like it's at the very least satisfying to know that I've talked with as many bands as possible, and the bands that I happen to have picked and taken the time with, whether it be harassing them, they're like, hey, when are we doing the podcast episode? That type of shit. It's nonetheless, it's been really satisfying to tell all these stories, and I can't thank you guys enough for taking the time to get the session done, tell your story, and just kind of like allow me to hang out in the shadows of what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. We appreciate it, man. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up episode 50. Stay tuned for episode 51, 2, 3, and everything beyond. And buenos noches, people. Buenos noches.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man.
Have a good night, buddy. Thanks a lot. Take your brush down.
Of course.